Are you facing complexity with DNS, IPAM, and security infrastructure in your cloud or hybrid network environment? In this Design Zone video, we will show you how you can simplify your DDI services with Infoblox and Alkira. Hi, my name is Hasham Malik. I'm from the Alkira product team, and joining me is Alex. Hi, Alex.
Hi, Hasham. Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Maldonado. I'm a senior solutions architect here in Alkira, and great to be here.
So, Alex, a few months back, Alkira and Infoblox announced the partnership, and we released several blogs and also did a initial deployment design zone video for basic use cases of Infoblox. But since the launch, several customers have deployed Infoblox, and you have worked with them firsthand. How has been the experience?
The experience has been great, Hasham. This is a great partnership that we've had. Notice that now has been over 20 years of experience out in the field. And some of our customers basically want to deploy these advanced topologies. And so we're talking to customers from centralized management of their DDI infrastructure, for IPAM, for a single source of truth, and not only doing it on-prem, but doing it in a multi-cloud fashion. The biggest advanced one that we've seen with customers is their DNS Anycast. How do we have like 6 regions in our CXP and have a full mesh of the SD-WAN and be able to do Anycast from anywhere where they come into? So it's been very exciting.
Yes, Alex, that sounds very exciting. But let's step back a little. Can you explain what were the basic requirements that customers got interested in deploying Infoblox in Alkira?
Great question, Hasham, and it is very exciting. So one of the things is that we're addressing with some of these customers' challenges was that they wanted to increase the visibility into their overlapping IP address space. So in this case, they wanted to have a centralized administration and to look into the on-prem as well as a multi-cloud for overlapping IP address space, but to see if there's any conflict. So in Alkira, we provide this this enhancement to not only simplify it, but if you were to do it in a legacy model, then it's going to be a little bit more challenging. And because, as we all know, every cloud service provider's network is different, and we have abstracted that layer, right? The other thing is that having a centralized single source of truth is very powerful than going to multiple different cloud service providers or going on-prem. And in the case for Anycast, as you know, Alkira, we're a hyperscale network. We've already created this large global fabric, right? If a customer wanted to do Anycast, let's say, in any CSP, well, you need more infrastructure, right? You need to have the router, you need to build up that fabric, and then also plumb it all the way to the on-prem. But that's only for one cloud service provider. So if you wanted to do it another one, then it's the same thing. So the cost not only goes up, but the complexity also goes up. We showcase with Alkira is very, very simple, in which we can bring your grid in an hour to be up, less than an hour to be up.
So Alkira not only simplifies the cloud networking, but also makes third-party integration agile and quick, right? Like you mentioned, the Infoblox grid can be deployed in different cloud regions on Alkira CXPs within or less than 1 hour, which is great, right? And also, when customer is already using Alkira, they can take advantage of the security features of Alkira with the Infoblox DDI traffic, right?
That's correct, Hasham. And we can extend it for not only the security posture of the features that we allow, but customers can really take advantage of what they're already used to. For example, segmentation, or in your previous video, you discussed about segmentation, what that means, and it's basically isolated routing domains. But what customers can do is have a shared service of like Infoblox and redistribute those routes to a different segment, okay? And we're giving them the ability to do what they're used to, controlling the BGP routes, controlling the traffic policies, doing traffic insertion. That's very difficult to do in a multi-cloud arena.
So, Alex, you have replicated some of the customer use cases in your lab, right? And you have given those demonstrations to customers as a proof of concept. Can we have insight on those use cases?
Absolutely, Hassan. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And before we get started, what I want to do is I wanted to showcase how easy it is to deploy a full functioning grid across 2 different regions. Okay, so we come in here into the services, and we can pick here the Infoblox service. Okay, now I already have one deployed, so what I'm going to do is come in here and just walk through the functionings of what we need. So we'll basically provide the name, we'll provide the CIDR IP address that this is the grid is going to be deployed on. And then we provide, yes, it's going to be in your grid, Infoblox grid name, the share secret. You want to put the host name, the size, the software, the username, and if we're going to do any cancel or anything to enable. Now, after the grid is mentioned, you save it and you provision, you'll come back and then fill out the grid member name. And then as we talked about right in the previous video, you got to give a segment and the IP addresses, and then also right, what's the backup of the CXP? Okay, so that's for region 1.
Alex, to summarize the service, how it's laid out, each CXP is has an Infoblox service. Within that service, any of the instances that are deployed within that service for that region, they are laid out. Like if there is grid master, a new grid master that is within that service configurations, and the members associated with that grid, right?
That is correct. Yes, because we can only have one grid member within the portal. So in this case, this is the grid master, and on this grid master, right, he has a grid member in this area, right? Now, this is for one region, but then I'm going to go into the AP Southeast region, and I'm going to say we want enabled DNS or DDI to this region as well, and we want to do it in such a way that it's high available, right? So in this case, I'm going to call it, hey, this is the APSC DDI. Here's the Infoblox, but more importantly, hey, I'm not creating a new grid. I'm going to be part of the grid that we already deployed in the first region, right? I give it the IP address of the region, the share secret, and now I'm going to be putting this grid member, but more importantly, he's going to be a grid manager candidate. Okay. And so what happens now is that if anything was to happen within the first grid manager, this one will take over. Okay. And on that one, as we mentioned, we created another member to be part of this, and he has to do the services. And we put it in the same segment. We gave it the service group if we're going to do a resource shared service topology. And then we also going to say, hey, here's your backup of your CXP. Okay. So once we hit save and we provision, we got a full functioning grid, and it takes, it's like I said, it's point and click, but we have comprehensive features and integrations with this platform. Okay. So now that the grid is up and running, okay, you're going to go to the grid, click on Infoblox, and it will give you the management of the grid. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next tab. All right. My grid is up. I've logged in. Okay. Now for this particular customer is they wanted to do IPAM to look into their environment. So when we demoed this, I basically created a container, a network container, and I went out and did a discovery into my environment. Okay. So all of these are public IP, actual infrastructures in my environment. And it'll tell you exactly what you want to know, right? If it's used, if it's conflicted, if it's pending, if it's unmanaged, if there's a DNS object in here. And if you want to do your DHCP, right, you can basically create a range or as well an exclusion. So this can be deployed not only on-prem, but also in one of your cloud service providers.
So Alex, Infoblox service, like you showed in the configurations, it's deployed in a specific Alkira segment, right? What if there is a customer requirement that different departments of the customers they require they are in the different segments, but they require the Infoblox service, or let's say partners or their customers or vendors, they have the connectivity where the DDI service needs to be provided, and they are completely in different segment. Should customer deploy grid in different segments, or is there a way to utilize the same service by in different use cases or users efficiently?
Hasham, that's a great question. I get this one all the time, and as you know, we just released our extranet as a service, and so when we had customers deploying Infoblox in the grid, they needed some partners to access some of the DNS resources that they wanted them to have access. So as you know, with Alkira, what we could do is take services from one segment, which is a completely isolated routing domain, and share it to another segment. In this case, was a partner segment. And so to showcase that, I want to discuss on how we set up the DNS, the host record, and discuss the Anycast. So here I'm going to go to the DNS. I am going to go to my zones, and I have local.hm. And in this here, I have firewall, which is a host record that we need to have access to. Okay. Now I'm going to go to the members. In the members, you'll see that I have the grid manager here deployed, and this is in one CXP or in US West 1 region. I have the grid manager candidate, which is in the second CXP or the APSC1 region, and each one has their own members. So let's click on member number 1. In here, you'll see that with Alkira, we deployed the Anycast, and when you come in here, we went ahead and we configured it. It shows up automatically when you hit the plus sign. And then what we want to do is click on the loopback address. We're going to go ahead and say that, yes, we want to forward it. In this case, this is a lab, so I can forward it to 8.8.8. But if you have your own forwarder, you can position it in that forwarder. And then I want to make sure that it does queries. It does listen to queries. Now, I allowed any for any route recursion, but if you have ACLs or an enterprise have certain permissions or certain rules, they can definitely put this on here as well. Okay, so that's the member, and that's the DNS, and both of them are configured in the same aspect because again, it is the Anycast for the US region as well as APSC1 region. Okay, so now I'm going to go to the demo.
So the demo we're doing of a DNS query to
resource share, yeah,
that is in the CXP, and that is getting shared with a partner.
That is correct. Yes. Yes, and this is exactly how I'm showing it here. You see this I here? I love this the way we do our intent-based policies, because what we can show here is exactly what's going on. So this is the ST admin, or the purple. That is the segment, or again, the isolated routing domain that Infoblox service lives on. What we have done is we've taken the service and then redistributed that to ST01. And so I have this segment, this is a IPsec connector, and I have this VM here. And notice that it has the 192.168.3.1, which is the Anycast IP address from the previous environment. Okay. So again, if you have a partner and it needs to have some type of resolving to one of your business applications, this would be a great use case. And then you have some proper security places, settings in place. Okay. So just to showcase, I'm using DNS ping. The server is 192.168, and I'm just going to ping 1,000 for this DNS to ensure that it's getting resolution. And this is APSC1. So now we have the pings in here, but the beauty about this is that notice how we have US West 1, and we can actually showcase that the traffic is actually coming from this environment, from this session, right? So the way we would do that is we can come over here, and since this is a resource share, we're going to do a resource share source capture. and we're going to say flow capture. Now this is live traffic that's basically going through the CXP. So in this case, we're seeing that it's basically coming from this host, which is this guy, in SD01 segment, and going to the services and getting DNS service.
That's great, Alex. But how will this work in the failure scenarios? I understand that we have deployed Infoblox service in 2 regions in Alkira. If there is a regional failure, the other service in the other region will take over. At the member level, we have separate members deployed in each of the regions. And then for grid manager, we have grid manager in one region, grid manager in candidate in the other regions, right? But is it possible for you to show us in action how the DNS Anycast will work if there is a user, for example, the branch server that you have shown connected through the IPsec? If there is a region failure, then how does the Anycast will work for the DNS?
Absolutely. So that's a great question, Hasham, because we've actually have a customer with this exact same question, exact same scenario. And for their use case, I've tested regional failure. I've tested when the grid manager fails, or if there's a service failure. Now, we don't have enough time. So for this demo, what I'll do is emulate a branch failure, like something happened with the branch, either the ISP went down or the device failed. We'll go ahead and go with that demo, okay? So before we do, I want to understand, I want to showcase the audience to understand the topology. So what we've seen today is we've seen the resource share, we've seen the IPAM over here. Now, what I'm going to do is this environment here, this is an Anycast. This is a SD-WAN simulation, meaning that all these environments are connected to each other, okay? Now, what we're going to do today is that we're going to be sending a ping from my live computer here, going out this way, and then I'm going to shut down this tunnel, okay? Now, the routing's in place from the customer side, in which that we're going to basically ensure that the Anycast is going to basically be going this way, okay?
So Alex,
and it's not going
to understand that from the top data center, when there is connectivity with US West CXPs, that data center is receiving the Anycast from the US West, and any DNS request will be addressed by US West Infoblox. But when you're shutting down that IPsec, the backbone will take over, the SD-WAN will take over for the routing, because AppC, CXP, Infoblox, they are also advertising the Anycast, right?
That is correct. And they're both configured the same, okay? And we're going to see that when we send the ping over here, it actually stays here in the grid manager candidate servicing, okay? I have here, this is the actual machine that we're on right now, okay? Here is the DNS ping. I'm sending it out to go to firewall local HF. And what we want to see here is that notice the millisecond timeout, okay? Now, this is my on-prem physical device. This is my FortiGate 601E that's in my home right now that I'm being tunneled into the CXP, okay? Now, in here, this is my interface, okay, that I have into this demo environment. And right now, I'm sending the pings from my MacBook Pro to go out and service this DNS service. Now, let's just say that something happened where, like, there was a ISP outage, my 601E interface or SFP went down, or it's bad. So we'll go ahead and I'm going to disable the interface. And notice here that all of a sudden you see my latency here. It went from 30 milliseconds all the way to 212. Okay, so and I would say that sometimes there's no ping drops and sometimes there's one ping drop, whether it be a grid manager failure or a service failure, okay, or a region failure. Okay, this we see one to 2 ping drops and sometimes nothing. Okay. Now, we also want to ensure that the traffic is going where it's supposed to go, right? And this is where the awesome tools that we have in the diagnostics, we can go in here, go to diagnostics, and ensure that this traffic is actually coming from the APSC1 device. And it is. Here is 10.2.55.51. That is my IP address, and we are getting service with the Anycast IP address. Now, we have to appreciate what Alkira has done with creating this robust global network, and we can facilitate these types of services and make them very robust for customer use cases.
So when you failed over the IPsec tunnel from your FortiGate to the US West, there was higher latency because it's taking the backdoor from FortiGate to your simulated SD-WAN, and that's why we see a higher latency, right?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, and then we verified that the traffic is actually going to the second CXP in the flow capture.
That is correct. And the big point here is that for any US West employees in the customer's environment will go to US West. Any APSC1 customers going from APSC will be going to APSC. It's only when it failures that will basically cross change. And that's what customers were looking for to make it a robust environment.
And that's basically the Anycast DNS advantage is, right? To serve the request to the locally.
Hasham, I know you're excited. So let me just show you one more thing, okay? I'm just gonna basically re-enable it back. And I'm gonna showcase that, hey, the ISP is back up, and it's gonna be BGP, the IPsec is gonna come up, the BGP is gonna come up, and once that gets all resolved, it'll seamlessly transition back to where it came from. Okay. So it took a little bit in between for the BGP to come up, but notice that it transitioned, and you see where the milliseconds transition and the interface is up and running.
This is really great, Alex. Thank you for sharing all the use cases with us.
Hasham, it was my pleasure, and it was a lot of fun.
Alkira and Infoblox partnership has simplified complex use cases of customers for IPAM, resource share, DNS Anycast, and the failure scenarios that are related to DDI services. If you have any interesting use case that you believe Alkira can help you with, please reach out to us at sales@alkira.com.